Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have gathered here with another webinar topic on outcome-based education and evaluation reforms. NAAC has been conducting many theme-based webinars, and in this series, this webinar is organized in order to emphasize the need for the outcome-based education and evaluation reforms. So, what is the idea of outcome-based education? Why it is important to address the issues of education system specifically driving towards outcome-based education, and what are the necessary requirements in terms of the curriculum and in terms of the evaluation. I am going to touch upon this particular aspects in the session of this webinar. So outcome-based education is quite older concept in as far as technical education is concerned. For general education, recently we have received a guiding document from University Grants Commission, where the sample graduate attributes, the program learning outcomes and the course learning outcomes for some programs have been demonstrated. The entire methodology framework has also been demonstrated in the guiding documents. So we all know there are advantages of outcome-based education and why the traditional education system is not sufficient to address the needs of the education requirements of the various employment issues of the students. That also is known to us. There is a lot of gaps which has been found in various reports published as far as skill education outcomes and the standards and the quality of education is concerned. So all those things have been pointing us towards the adoption of OBE in our own traditional education system, and therefore these are some of the advantages of outcome-based education which are being listed out. The first one is relevance. Outcome-based education promotes the fitness for practice and education for capability. So fitness for practice, that means it is very relevant. We talk about the various skills that are required for the students. We talk about the outcomes that are needed for students to be demonstrated, whatever profession they are choosing out. Discourse is the another advantage of outcome-based education. The process of identification of the outcomes within an institution promotes the discussion of the fundamental questions. In the process of devising the outcomes, uh, uh, involves a lot of brainstorming amongst the faculty members related to the outcomes. Maybe some, if we are devising the course outcomes, we will get an opportunity to discuss the common matters of that particular course with the faculty members who have been teaching, who have been associated with the courses subject wise. With the outcome-based education, everybody will be having a clarity in mind. The students will be aware of what they are expected to perform. The teachers will be able to identify what they are expected to teach and what they are expected to deliver through various instructional mode of education. Then the provision of the framework, outcome-based education provides a robust framework for the integration of the curriculum. So this is always resulting in the revising of the curriculum. So we are talking about curriculum reforms when we try to integrate the outcome-based education. The accountability is another aspect which is very relevant as far as outcome-based education is concerned. The people are held accountable, maybe teachers, maybe students, for whatever they are expected to do. It also promotes the self-directed learning. So students are clear about these are my outcomes. I have to take this particular path in order to achieve those outcomes. These are the possible resources from which I can do the self-directed learning. Then flexibility, it provides a lot of ample opportunity for the flexible curriculum, like we should be able to create an environment where alternative modes of assessments and also the alternative patterns of learning can be given to the students. And also it provides a guide for assessment, maybe through the assessment, through the question papers, because these are based on the assessment driven teaching learning process. So it provides a very good guide for the assessment process. Facilitates the curriculum evaluation. So the curriculum, once set, it will not be lasting forever. It has to address the changes which are happening in the entire ecosystem of higher education sector. So what is an outcome? So after getting the learning experience, what a student is able to perform is defined as outcome. So we have to provide this learning experience through classroom teaching, through laboratory, through various activities such as group discussions, quizzes, and other things, so that the learning experience should drive towards attainment of those outcomes. In the context of formal education, an outcome of education is what the student should be able to do at the end of the program or a course or an instructional unit. And accordingly, the outcomes are defined at the program levels, course levels, and unit levels also sometimes. The outcomes provide the basis for the effective interaction among the stakeholders. So because all of them will be talking about outcomes in terms of specified structured terminologies, so it will provide a base for interaction among the various stakeholders. So it was basically investigated by the SPADI, although we were talking it earlier also, but it got momentum after the SPADI published the book, and he defined the outcome-based education as, as a mean clearly focusing and organizing everything in an educational system around what is essential for students to be able to do successfully at the end of the learning experience. So this statement is very important, organizing everything in an educational system. So whatever activity we are providing, performing in order to improve the teaching learning process, that should be driven by the outcome. So that is the theme for the outcome-based education. So outcome-based education is an approach to the education in which the decision about the curriculum, instruction, and the assessments are driven by the exit learning outcome. So first we need to define the exit learning outcomes, what a student should be expected to deliver. So, and accordingly, the curriculum, instruction, and assessment should be driven backwards. Here, the outcome-based education differs from the traditional education practice, where the product defines the process. The product defines the process. The outcomes defines the various process aspects of teaching learning. It is opposite to the input-based education system, what we are following these days, where the emphasis on the educational process is more, and where we are happy to accept whatever is the result. So what the teacher thinks the competency should be given to the students, they will include in the curriculum, and simply without bothering about the result, whether the students have learned properly, we are happy with the results. The premise of the outcome-based education is based on every student and graduate is a unique in himself. So basically, it is the base of a student-centric learning approach. Every student and graduate is unique. Each student or graduate has his own characteristics in terms of his previous learning levels. So whatever schools they have studied, whatever courses they have studied, maybe some directly from 10th, somebody maybe, sorry, from 12th, somebody may be going to for the integrated programs and like that. So whatever learning levels they were previously holding, their life experiences, their learning styles and approaches to future career related actions. So characteristics describes the personality of the each of these learners. So every graduate is unique is the premise on which outcome-based education is based upon. The quality, the depth and breadth of learning experience made available to the students. And actually, it is our responsibility that the student should not only receive the depth of the subject knowledge, but also should be able to attain the breadth uh, of the curriculum, breadth of the subject, in a way that he should be able to effectively communicate all the ideas of the subject knowledge to the colleagues. So other skills are also very important. So depth and breadth should be given, opportunities should be provided to the students in order to achieve these two aspects of the learning. The graduate attributes basically is defining the desirable characteristics in terms of disciplinary knowledge and understanding, the generic skills, including the global competitiveness of all students in different academic fields of the study. So, because this is a top-down approach while designing, so everything will be starting from what is important for the students to be able to, and organizing the curriculum, instruction, and the assessment to make sure that learning ultimately happens. So the key to have an outcome-based education is developing a clear set of learning outcomes around which all the system components can be focused, establishing the conditions and the opportunities when the system that enables and encourages all students to achieve through these essential outcomes. So how to define outcomes is the questions. As I said earlier, the outcomes can be defined at the program level, at the course level, and sometimes at the unit level also. So for defining outcomes, effective participation of all stakeholders is essential, and the implementation should also be effectively planned, and the outcomes should be observable and measurable. We should be able to identify that this particular outcome is observable through this particular process. It should be measurable in terms of the competencies and in terms of the performance indicators defined thereon. So the outcome based education follows the top-down approach while designing the curriculum, and while designing the attainment, it follows the bottom-up approach. So we have to design starting from vision and mission, and this vision and mission is defined on the basis of the context in which the institution is offering a program. So vision and mission offering a set of programs. So vision mission is contextual definition which the institution should be able to identify in a specific context of location, demography, the kind of the environment in which the institution is located, and the expectation of the society, what the institution is expected to deliver. So once vision and mission is defined, then the program educational objectives for each of these programs should be defined in line with the mission. So once this educational objectives are defined, like these are basically 3 to 5 educational objectives which a graduate should be able to deliver after completion of the degree, whatever profession they are having. So this is assessed after over a period of time of 3 to 4 years, and whether whatever education that has been received by the students, whether they are performing. So there are various means of observing these program educational objectives. Now, program educational objectives in turns defines the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So program outcomes and program specific outcomes are expected to be defined on the basis of PEOs. And now these PEOs should be delivered through the courses. So various courses will be there in a program. Each courses will be having different set of outcomes. So in terms of course outcomes, the program outcomes will be attainable. So in a way, whatever we are designing, this is a top-down approach. Vision drives PEOs drives outcomes, and in way it is driving the course curriculum, course instruction, and the assessment patterns. And how the assessment is happening, whatever assessment is happening for a particular course, it will be impacting the assessment of the program outcomes and the assessment of the program specific outcomes. And in a way, it will be driving the program educational objectives, and in a way, vision and mission statements are to be achieved. So this is the outcome-based education process cycle. This is a process which follows a process control point of view, in which the program educational objectives is set up, and this is a kind of feedback control loop in which PEOs, PO, PSO, CO, they are sequentially defined. So PEO drives the PO, PSO, and PO, PSO drives the CO, whatever plan, and accordingly planning of the curriculum, teaching, learning happens. And once that is being planned, and along with the assessment, the evaluation happens, and whatever the evaluation result is there, with the respect to specific target level set for each of these course outcomes, evaluation will be performed. And in case if gap is identified, whatever target we had set at the beginning, if that is lagging somewhere, we have to give a corrective action in order to improve our curriculum course teaching plan. So this is a kind of a gap. In every stage, we are performing a gap analysis. We are setting up a target at the course outcome levels. For each of these outcomes, targets are set, and through the assessment of the assessment instruments, we are trying to measure those targets and whether we have achieved those targets. In case of gap, we will be having a corrective action in order to improve our teaching learning pattern or course curriculum pedagogy. Similarly, these course attainment levels will basically evaluate the program level attainment. So through this course course outcome levels or the targets, we will be having the targets of program level, and accordingly, in case if the program level targets are not met, the corrective action will be performed. Similarly, the program educational objective level, PEO level also, similar corrective action will be performed. In all these processes, the involvement of the stakeholders is essential. So while formulating the outcomes at the program level and educational objectives, the feedback from the stakeholder is very essential. So the assessment and the learning OBE principle rests on revising the curriculum. So revising the curriculum means curriculum reforms. We have to design to move towards the attainment of the outcomes, in which the initial state of the curriculum will be with gaps. So initial state of the curriculum will be with gap. Whatever curriculum we are following, we may not be able to address all the course outcomes at the initial level, and there will be some gaps. So in order to fulfill those gaps, corrective actions should be available in the form of providing additional projects, additional courses, learning materials, and content, so that the gaps can be filled up. Similarly, the evaluation reforms are needed to enhance the employability and to integrate the outcome-based education. Examination and evaluation reforms are required. So the graduate attributes which are defined for the outcome-based education as per learning outcome-based curriculum framework of UGC is they have identified certain desirable characteristics which include the disciplinary knowledge, communication skill, um, critical thinking, problem solving, analytical reasoning, research related skills, cooperation and teamwork, scientific reasoning, reflective thinking, information and digital literacy, self directed learning, multicultural competence, moral and ethical awareness, and leadership readiness and lifelong learning. So, these are the characteristics of desirable characteristics of graduates, and through using these characteristics one should devise the learning outcomes at the program level and the accordingly the course level. So workflow according to the LOCF format, similar to whatever we have indicated earlier. Vision and mission will be first, then educational objectives, learning outcomes, then competencies are defined in order to attain those learning outcomes and which are measured through performance indicators. And then the course learning outcomes are arrived at, and in way course learning outcomes defines the program learning outcomes, and review and action plan for improvement closes the quality loop. So vision and characteristics of defining the vision and mission. What are the important characteristic which should be there for defining the vision and mission statement? So vision statement typically indicates the aspirations, while the mission statements states the broad approach to achieve those aspirations. So basically, what we aspire to become is a vision statement, and mission statement is approach to achieve those aspirations. Vision and mission statements should be written in a simple language and easy to communicate, and should define the objectives which are out of reach in the present context, and should be understood and shared by the people within a system. Institute vision and mission statement should ensure the consistency with the department. So not only the vision mission statement is defined for the institution, but it should be defined for the departments as well. So program educational objectives. What are the characteristics? Program educational objectives is what the program is in preparing graduates for their career or professional accomplishment is for, and consistent with the institutional missions, and involves the constituents and the stakeholders. So PEO should be consistent. I already told you. Stakeholders should be there. Participation should be ensured. The number of PE should be manageable and should be based on the need of the stakeholders, and should be achievable by program, and should be specific to program and not too broad. It should not be too narrow, not too broad, similar to PLO. So this mapping is essential, which is based on the set of identifying the correlation between the PEO and mission statements. Program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and PO. For the professional programs, POs are identified by NBA, but for the general education, POs are to be derived in line with the graduate attributes defined by the UGC's guiding document LOCF. The process of defining, implementing, and closing the quality loop is the responsibility of the institution. Sometimes we are confused who will be defining what. So the process of defining, implementing, and closing the quality loop is a responsibility of the institutions. So once defined, it needs to be publicized, practicized for a continuous quality improvement, and attainment is through course outcomes. So basically, we measure the attainment through the course outcomes. And PO, PSO should be attained through the activities in which all the students should participate. So what is the meaning of publicizing? It should be available on the institutional website on the relevant program link. Availability should be ensured at the department notice board, HOD's chamber website, documents, and documentary evidence should also be kept in records. So what a program educational objective should address? The typically program educational objective should address these things. The future employment and the higher preparation of the graduate for the employment and the higher studies. So whatever statements we are making, we should be clear about that. The statement should address the preparation of the students for the employment or for the higher studies. The core competencies in terms of disciplinary knowledge also should be the component. The breadth, professionalism, and lifelong learning. So program educational objectives can be like, should be addressing all of these or maybe some of these, but should be of 3 to 5 what we expect a graduate graduating from that institution should possess after qualifying the examination and after 4 to 5 years of employment or the higher studies. Program outcomes are the characteristics are the statements that describe what knowledge, attitude, and skills the student should be able to demonstrate at the time of graduation from general education programs. They are defined by either institution or the university. We expect that university should be defining the program outcomes. They address both disciplinary, professional, generic competencies. For example, samples are being given at various documents, and there are various courses available for writing the program outcomes, program specific outcome. And NPTEL also offers a particular program in which how to write the program outcomes and the details about for the general education also has been given. Program specific outcomes where discipline specific statements will be there. So it is different from program outcomes in a way that it addresses the discipline specific knowledge and skills and the attitudes. So this is the flow in which the statements are written, and the curriculum, it leads to designing of the curriculum. So the stakeholder, which includes the employers, alumni, parent, faculty, graduating students, their interaction and brainstorming with them, with the university committee. So university or institute will arrange for the interaction meetings and brainstorming session with all the stakeholders, and they will decide the program outcomes. And this is an iterative process. Maybe for the first time, the institution will be identifying, but later on, once realizing till outcomes that these are not appropriate, there may be some improvement over the years. So university will be deciding outcomes and program outcomes. Similarly, specific, whenever we talk about specific outcomes, the departmental committee will be deciding that program specific outcomes, and both should be integrated together to define the curriculum. So course outcomes. So as it is already mentioned many times, that correlation between the course outcomes and program outcomes should be established. So mapping and the metrics table should be based on that attainment. So, but the course outcome forms the basis on which these all attainments are being obtained. So we have to discuss course outcomes in a little more details. So course outcomes are what the students are required to demonstrate at the end of the course. Course outcomes should be observable, measurable, and every course outcome addresses a subset of, not all POs. It is not essential that the course outcome should address all program outcomes or all program specific outcome. It should address a subset of program outcomes and a subset of program specific outcomes. This is the sample which is given for the course outcome. So compute the energies and the wave function of hydrogen atom using Schrodinger equation. So this is for quantum mechanics course. This is one of the course outcomes which is being written. So these course outcomes have been given a specified structure, and these should be structured with 4 components, and starting with the action verbs, and then the knowledge, and then the criteria, and also the conditions. So these are the 4 components of defining the course outcomes. So action verbs are basically derived from the Bloom's levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, in which the lowest level is remembering and the highest level is creating. So remembering is the lowest level and the highest is creating, and the action verbs that may be used to denote the outcome is for remembering, define, duplicate, list, memorize, recall, repeat, and reproduce. For understanding, one may use classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, locate, recognize, report, etc. For applying, so what is suggested, it's using these action verbs, the statement should be formulated with a specific knowledge domain which they are addressing, and using these words, and the assessment should include all the course levels. Assessment, whatever we are designing, should address all the levels of Bloom's through these course outcomes. So how the CO attainment and quality loop is completed. So starting with the course is defined in terms of course outcomes, and they are assessed as per the assessment patterns, and these assessment patterns basically determines the assessment instrument, and then the assessment instruments defines the student's course attainment, and in a way these determines the PO and PSO. So for every course outcomes are defined. Once course outcomes are defined, curriculum is designed, assessment pattern, that this will be including these many assessment methods, maybe case studies, maybe quizzes, maybe assignment, maybe internal examination. So assessment pattern and the distribution, how you are going to assess. So this is about the assessment pattern. So this will be deciding. So once the assessment pattern is being decided, the assessment instrument, like for example, if you are talking about the internal examination, you will be conducting 2 internal tests. So the test will comprise of some questions, and all those questions should address each of these course outcomes. So assessment instruments means a question paper, we can call it question paper, and each of these questions should belong to the different levels of the Bloom's. So student attainment should be for the course outcome level. So average performance of all the students at the course outcome levels will be deciding the attainment, and we will be comparing it with the target what we have decided at the beginning of course. So if there is any gap, CO attainment gap, we will be taking a corrective action in order to complete the quality loop. So this is the OBE framework for a general education. So board of study is suggested and has been taken from NPTEL lecture series. So here a board of studies identifies the context of mission of the identifies the context of the mission of the department and UGC CBCS. On the basis of this, COs, POs and COs are identified, and they together lead to the curriculum. And the curriculum consists of discipline core courses, electives, foundation courses, ability enhancement courses, and skill enhancement courses. But we have to ensure that those courses only should be taken where the participation of students should be ensured. All the students should participate in the assessment. Those courses should be taken only for the outcomes. So in a way, this is the process flow, and this will lead to the course outcomes. And similarly, this is a framework which is being given: vision, then mission, then vision of the department, mission of the department. So for every department, Board of Studies will be deciding the outcomes. So what are the features when we are trying to define course outcomes? We will be taking the action verbs, and it will be defined in terms of students' performance and should be a proper level of generality and should be important of other COs. I mean, independent of other COs, means one should not be related to other. Means independence nature should be ensured while defining course outcomes. Should be learning product rather than learning process and should be attainable. So these are the some sample. So describe the general taxonomic rules on the animal classification. Here the describe is basically action verb, and knowledge domain which has been taken here is conceptual, and the condition is on element animal classification, and criteria is missing. So last two elements of this structure are optional, whereas we expect that all the course outcomes should possess at least the action and the knowledge domain in which they are addressing these things. Similarly, this is another example where the action verb is classified. The knowledge domain which it is addressing is conceptual. So there are four possible domains: factual, conceptual, behavioral, and metacognition. So knowledge domain should also be tagged with all the course outcomes. So these are some do's and don'ts of writing course outcome. Only one action verb should be used. Do not use the verbs including like, such as, different, etc. with respect to knowledge elements. Put an effort to make the course outcome statements as specific as possible and measurable, and do not make it either too abstract or too specific. Course outcomes, as I said earlier, POs are attained through program-specific core courses, and which has already their own previously set outcomes to attain. These course-specific outcomes are called course outcomes. Each course is designed to meet 5 to 6 course outcomes, and the course outcomes are stated in such a way that they can be actually measured. So again, some features. COs are set by the institution, and these are the examples which are being given for COs. And for every COs, we must be defining the sessions in which each of these COs will be attained. For class sessions, we must define each of these COs will be, and also the knowledge domain, and also the cognitive level to which they belong to should be tagged for each of these COs. CO-PO metrics for the courses. So these are if we are offering any program, all the courses are somehow related to the program levels, and the relation of the program levels should be defined with the set kind of correlation. So the course outcome may be slightly correlated with any particular program outcome, may be moderately correlated with a particular program outcome, may be substantially correlated with the particular program outcome. Similar such CO-PSO metric also should be devised. But how to define that this is slightly correlated, and who will be deciding it? So a subject matter expert, the instructor, or the one who will be designing this, and also the set of team which who are responsible, that these are the outcomes which are essential, because this involves a lot of brainstorming and discussion among the peers in order to finally define and formulate this matrix. So correlation, through correlation, these are attained, program outcomes are being attained. So these are some of the examples of the test for examples of assessment patterns which are responsible for measuring the attainment. So maybe assignments, maybe through laboratory test, project evaluation, student portfolios, and many more. So there are various advantages of each of these assessments, and this evaluation document talks about all those assessment methods and what are the advantages under which assessment method will be more suitable. You can refer that particular document in order to get more information about what are the various assessment methods that are used and that are more suitable for attaining the course's outcomes. The attainment of course outcomes of all courses, this is again the same information, the student performance in the internals and performance in the university examination. So this is the process flow in which the attainment can be ensured, and find the mapping of each question in the assignment, maybe assignment, or it may be an internal test, maybe whatever assessment you have decided, and group the questions as per CO mapping. So you have to count the questions for each of these CO mapping, and then identify the student's performance threshold value. You may set some threshold value and you can then average it out to find out whether it is lying below the threshold value, and then compute the question wise attainment. So you can compute the question wise attainment in a way you can compute the attainment of course outcomes and aggregate the course outcome attainment for each of these course outcomes and compare the attainment with the target. So this is the process flow: find, group, identify, compute, and compare. For an affiliated colleges, only the university sets the curriculum and also the university conducts the examination. So it is sometimes becoming difficult to adopt for outcome-based education curriculum reforms. So here we have taken some examples how it can be done. And semester end examination, which is under control of university, there we can not do much, but for the internal examination, definitely this can be aligned with the attainment of the outcomes. So assessment instruments may be designed and patterns also may be designed. So what do we mean by assessment pattern? At the various cognitive levels, in a way that will be all the COs will be will be tagged with certain kind of cognitive levels, and through these cognitive levels we will be attaining each of these course outcomes. So for example, we can give the assignment student to do the students. There are 25 marks, internal marks out of, let's say, 100. So these 25 marks can be distributed in 2 tests and 1 assignment, maybe 3 tests in one and 1 assignment. So let us say, for example, 2 tests and 1 assignment if we take. So assignment is given 5 marks, and this assignment, whatever question we are giving to students, that belong to the cognitive level of understanding. So the problem, what we are giving at the assignment level should address the cognitive level understanding, not just merely remembering. And the test pattern should also be designed that some of the questions we may take from the remembering, some may be taken from the level of understanding. Another test that we are conducting may address the other 2 levels, and similarly. So higher level generally we attain through projects and group activities. So for the internal exam, continuous internal examination, how the attainment can be ensured is demonstrated through this example. This example is again taken from the NPTEL lecture. So as for the 2 test pattern, there are 25 marks for the internal examination. So for the assignment, if the assignment is divided into 2 questions, one question is addressing the course outcome level 4. The other question is addressing the course outcome level 5, and the class average of the marks attained by the students. We will be computing all the students, their class average, we will be computing. So the attainment can be ensured as a ratio of the class average of the students to the total marks we have allotted for this particular outcome level attainment. Similar such situation arises for the test. So for a test of total marks 4, each of these course outcomes, there are some questions and associated marks. Let us say we have divided the questions such that course outcome 1 will be attained through 2-mark question, course outcome 2 will be attained to 2-mark question, 3 will be attained 3-mark questions, and 4 is attained again 3-mark questions. So total distribution of the marks will be 10, and the class performance average is depicted here. So the ratio of these two will define the attainment of the course outcome 1. So similarly, test 2, the attainments are defined, and then these are being averaged out. So for the internal examination for an affiliated college, we can at least do these practices of adopting outcome-based education, in which the first test will be addressing the lower outcomes, and all these outcomes are tagged with the action verbs or the Bloom's levels of competencies, and the second test will be addressing the other set of outcomes, and averaged over the class performance will be defining the overall class average. So in this way, the averages can be ensured. How then the gap can be obtained, attainment can be ensured? We have, whenever we float a course, we will be first set a threshold for, target for that particular course. And that target, because for the affiliated colleges, examination, whatever pattern the university gives the paper, it is very difficult to get all the outcome levels being identified from that particular paper. So you may, one may use the all attainment of all the outcomes equal, and whatever performance of the students in the external examination is being obtained, that can be averaged out for the attainment of the 1 to 9 level. So for a particular course, whatever marks the students have attained, the percentage of marks can be averaged out and can be used for the semester end examination. And for the internal examination, the way you have designed the internal examination, and accordingly, the percentages as calculated previously for the each of these outcome levels, you have given some questions, maybe given some assignments, these are being averaged out, and then in a way, the total percentage and the attainment levels can be derived. So whatever target you have set for your particular course, that can be compared with this with the target that has been achieved here, and the gap can be identified. This particular slide shows how the gaps are being identified. So this is the direct attainment, and you may set a target for some 90% direct attainment and 10% through indirect attainment, and accordingly this indirect attainment can be exit survey or any other kind of survey, alumni or interaction or something like that. So indirect attainment can be ensured, and using this weighted average method, you can be able to get the overall attainment. So the attainment which we have obtained from the university examination, from the internal examination, and that has been scaled up with a 0.9 scale, and then through indirect assessment, that has been scaled. Whatever exit survey we have conducted, that can be scaled with 10% contribution. The weighted average will be calculated to get the overall CO attainment, and that can be compared with the CO target, and the gap can be identified. So wherever there are positive gaps, that means like in this case, the attainment is more than set target. So in this way, there is a need to raise your target level for the next iteration. Similarly, this is attainment is more than the target. So there is a necessity to raise the target in this case also. There are some positive cases here where the attainment is less than the set target. So here you need to perform a corrective action by providing additional opportunities for the students to fill the gap, So in this way, wherever there are positive gaps identified, there can be some corrective actions. Present 2 or more videos, maybe organizing group discussions, maybe a multimedia material we can provide, and through this we can close the gap for the and wherever there are some our targets are more, our attainments are more than this, we will be raising the targets. In this way, the quality loop is being closed, and this our objective is to increase to attain a specified set target which we have set ahead before beginning of the courses. Once particular target is met, then we will be raising the target levels to the next in a way such that the learning of all the students can be maximized. So maximization of the learning by raising the target level over a period of time is basically a continuous quality improvement. There are some skills which are not directly measurable through the examination. So for that purpose, the assessment rubrics are being designed in which the dimensions, scales, and descriptors, means criteria will be defined, that these are a specific criteria on which the students will be assessed, and accordingly their performances are scaled. So rubrics are there for those specific courses in which the exams are not being possible to conduct. So this is again the top-down design of the program level. Already I have spoken about this, how the question paper can be designed, how the attainment can be ensured, and again this is the same picture which is depicting. Now this is a particular learning outcome-based evaluation reforms what UGC has proposed, and here they have clearly identified that how the attainment at each level can be ensured. So program educational objectives, first we have to devise, and then these program educational, so they're basically designing down, assessing up. So here they have indicated that assessment for the course design course level is only possible, like the others are just mapping. These wherever you see green dashed lines, these are just mappings based on the experience, based on the correlations. We just map the courses to program outcomes. Like program outcomes are not directly measurable, they are measurable through course outcomes. So to implement the outcome-based education, there is a necessity of introducing the curriculum reforms, necessity of introducing the examination reforms, and also there is a necessity that all the 13 or 14 lakh teachers in higher education should create a database of questions which addresses all the cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and the course outcomes can be correlated, can be tagged for each of these questions. And also there is a recommendation that 40% of the evaluation should be through internal marks, and a continuous assessment pattern should be identified, and the remaining 60% should be through the terminal examination. So the characteristic of examination or evaluation, a reasonable examination paper must consist of various difficulty levels to accommodate a different capabilities of students, Bloom's taxonomy framework, and testing the different cognitive skills without tilt towards a tough or easy perception essential. Then the present examination questions are more focused to the lower cognitive. There are various survey reports and published reports are there, which says that the examination, what we are following, it addresses the lower level of cognitive skills, which is not, which is the main reason for the lower standards and in the quality of education. So therefore, it is very essential that we should change our question papers pattern in order to address all the levels of norms and the cognitive levels. And it is recommended for you, this has already been 40% weightage for the internal examination. And it's important to note that nature of every course is different. It's very important that this model is not unique. You can devise your own pattern of mapping, you can devise your own pattern of assessment, and you can also devise your own correlation metrics for the establishing the mappings. This is all for the outcome-based education, although this topic is very vast, but I have tried to incorporate some main issues of the outcome-based education through this presentation by taking the relevant content from various sources available on the internet. Thank you very much for the patient listening. Now, may we begin with the question answer session?
Yes, ma'am. Participants may raise their hands. Yeah. Dr. Ling Gowda, Karni.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. Before beginning the question answer session, I will request Dr. Ramya Kumar Rath, Advisor NAAC, also to join. I think he is joined already. Thank you, sir, for joining. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. You can do that.
So, madam, again, it is a general question about the outcome-based education. See, now I have again some information about. Now you have said again LOCF in UGC terms, OBE in engineering, and CBE in medical. All are the same. All of them are only outcome-based education models. But why this different nomenclature? Though NAAC again assesses all of them will follow different nomenclatures. Why is this silo? Why is that now NAAC again will do something to address this? Thank you, madam.
So would you like to answer?
Yes, madam.
Amir sir, would you like to answer?
So, if I ask in the national education policy, why there is a law and medical, they are not part of the system. They are separately, they are being, considered. My point is the board, medical board, the medical curriculum board, they have decided that way. Even the engineering fraternity, they got this from this Washington Accord and Abbott. They got this kind of outcome-based educations. Soon after the signatory, of course, the provisional signatory of Washington Accords. Then later on, this UGC started. The UGC has understood that this kind of outcome-based education is important for the general education also. Then they have tried to find out what is a simplified way of implementing it, and they have made little changes. But in all the three cases, you will find that this learning outcomes are important. The outcomes of learning is important. We talk about course outcome, or we talk about course learning outcomes. We talk about program outcome, or we talk about program learning outcome. There is no difference at all. But the way it has been, like as I was mentioning, it has come from Abbott. and it has come from international, I mean, after a provisional signatory in the Washington Accord by National Board of Accreditation. It has come outcome-based education. Then slowly, the medical board, they have thought of little bit difference and making it. Of course, this in all these three cases, they considered outcomes of any education system, but only the nomenclatures and names are different, as you mentioned. Anything else, Pratibha, you want to add?
Yes, sir. Whenever we talk about the competencies for the professional education, we talk in terms of competency-based education. But whenever general education comes, we talk about the outcome-based education. Means competencies are not commonly used for defining the general education. So wherever vocational and technical education or medical educations are concerned, the competencies are used, and accordingly the terms are a little bit differing, but all of them are pointing towards the same philosophy of measuring the outcomes.
Okay, ma'am. I don't find more hands raised. I would request the participants, if you have any queries, you may just raise your hands. Accordingly, we'll unmute you. Ajita Padmanabhan, you may ask a question.
Yeah, sir, good afternoon to you. It is like a general question. All the OBE or whatever the nomenclature you are telling, it is basically moving towards to the engineering or a medical or to the higher echelons, right? So what about your arts and science colleges? You know, our arts and science colleges are predominant, and also the people or the students or the stakeholders, the students are from the rural people, rural livelihood. So what is your account on that, sir?
So you may address here.
Yeah. You want me to answer, Pratibha?
Yes. Ji.
See, who told you that it's only for engineering or
No,
it's for
sir, no.
medical? It's
Yeah,
for
no.
it's for any education system. See, my point is, if I am conducting a workshop, I need to know what is the, I mean, before starting the workshop or before giving a presentation, I need to find out what is my objectives and what is my outcome. My outcome is I could able to see that whatever the outcome, I need to find out. See, sometimes way back, few years back, we need to interact with the participants about the outcomes. But every lecture, every workshop, or kind of programs you conduct in the institutions, every faculty member should, first slide should be what is the objectives and what is the outcomes. Let it be a art science, or let it be a art science, commerce, or engineering, or any kind of education, any kind of seminars to be conducted. So what is the objectives of holding this, and what is the outcome of this, and how to measure, and what are the factors to measure the outcomes, right? Whether students will be involved in the process, whether you conduct some kind of assignments or tests or whatever it is, they are all different. They are all the assessment tools for finding out the what way it has been, the outcome has been fulfilled. But my point is, every education system should have an objective and should have an outcome. Of course, Pratibha was mentioning that UGC also, for general educations also, they've given about objectives and outcomes, etc. Anything else you want to add, Dr. Pratibha Singh?
That's it, sir. For arts education also the student should be known that these are my goals. After attaining the education, I should be able to perform. There are various research studies published where just by merely having a knowledge about the outcomes, the student's performance has improved a lot just by merely having information about the outcome. So outcome-based education, that's why it is being promoted, that students will be able to know the goals, and self-learning also will be promoted. This is not only about the engineering education. The goals always drives the actions. That is the philosophy behind the outcome-based education.
Yes, ma'am, I agree, ma'am. And also, we do go for an outcome-based education. I'm not saying that we arts and science are not going. My question, maybe it is predominantly it is more towards engineering. That's what I was trying to convey. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
I don't find any more questions. You can take up from Q&A or chat now. There are.
How can we assign the levels? Dr. S. Priya has asked, how can we assign the levels 1, 2, 3 correlation for CO and PO? Is there if there are 10 POs and 6 COs for 3-year program with 6 courses in each semester, is there any parameters in the percentage? So I have already addressed this question, how the correlation can be. This is only can be obtained through domain knowledge. And sometimes it has been, correlation is being established as a percentage of the interaction hours. For example, we have planned a particular course outcome for this many interaction hours. So the weightage and the importance can be justified, and the correlations can be established for a particular course outcome with the program outcomes. And already I have indicated that whatever courses the institution feels where all the students participate. So the electives are obviously not will be included, but all the core courses should be included and should be averaged out for the attainment of the course program outcomes. How far is COE supposed to be involved in calculating the attainment of the courses? That is not clear really. How is CO PSO attainment calculated? Already it's all those things are mapping related. So you can refer that particular, there are a vast variety of literatures available for addressing the mapping issues, how to map CO with PO, what are the criterias, and how it is being calculated. You can refer those documents, and that is all from my side. Would you like to add anything, sir?
Okay, okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, I think Samuel, any more raised hands are there?
One last one. Dr. Savita Shetty, you may ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir, ma'am. Just now you said that regarding the competencies, it is seen in the for the outcome-based education in engineering and medical. But I feel that it is essential for the general education also. But what I feel is that outcome-based education, this concept has been brought forward by the NAAC itself. What I feel, because in the general education, and from BOS, Board of Studies and all, right from the curriculum framing and all till the last point, all this process are not very clear and are not practiced much in the state universities and all. What it is my observation. So it is very essential, because even if you go for the arts and commerce faculties, and that too in the rural areas, so it is not very clear and it is not practiced. So lot of awareness is needed, because curriculum framing, even the Board of Studies, they don't give all those things in their curriculum. Even at the institution level also, teachers are not much aware about this outcome based education. So NAAC has brought this, it's a very good thing. NAAC has brought this concept. But even for the NAAC accreditation and all, when they sit for writing the SSR and all, they are very much confused. What is this? What to write about this? The program outcome or program specific outcome or course outcome and all. So this is the fact, madam, or sir. So this is the reality which I see as a academician in the education field in our area, at least in our universities. So what can be done for this? Because this is very essential, and each and every at least first of all, teacher should be very well aware about all these things, so that he or she can take all these things to the students.
I agree with you, madam. Whatever you said is right. And our engineering programs even have introduced and have been a signatory of Washington Accord from the year 2017. And there are latest introduction. There is a latest introduction.
Maybe around
Of outcome-based education in general education. Recently, they have been developed. And also, we have been observing through the assessment and accreditation of various institutions that they are trying to incorporate the outcome-based education, but that effort itself is being appreciated. And the attainment also somehow we have to think, because ultimately it is the graduates who will be benefited with this all. The idea is to ensure the employability and to ensure their progression for the future. That is where we have introduced this concept, and that is the future of students. So we have to try to fix up our roles in identifying those outcomes and their attainments. And there are a lot of literature available. You may take the help of NBA documents. AICT also publishes the evaluation reform guidelines. You can refer those documents. Definitely it will be helpful for you. And you may organize some workshop at the institutional levels where the experts can be invited to check whatever you have done is right or wrong in context of the general education.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, that's it, ma'am. I think so.
Would you like to give concluding remarks, sir?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So now we have come to the end of this program of outcome-based education. Before we can close this event, let me do the formality of making the vote of thanks. So I would like to thank our Honorable Director, Professor S.C. Sharma ji, for supporting us and motivating us for organizing these theme-based webinars, and wherein we are able to address these themes more relevant for the higher education sector. I'm thankful to Professor Amya Kumar, in charge ICT, advisor NAAC, and for his contribution, his involvement in this particular program. I'm thankful for the entire ICT team for supporting this particular event by connecting people and by organizing the set of events. And last but not the least, the participants of this event and who has been very keenly listening all the webinars which are being going on and trying to incorporate and discuss the matters so that all will be benefited. Thank you one and all. Thank you. We can close.
No, Hello.